Life doesn't change in dramatic moments the way movies want you to believe. It changes quietly. It changes in ordinary days. It changes in the small choices you make when no one is watching. Most people believe life happens to them. They blame timing. They blame luck. They blame circumstances, other people, the past, the economy, the world. But here is the uncomfortable truth. Life is not shaped by what happens to you. Life is shaped by what you choose to do about it. Every life you admire was built by choices. Every life you envy was built by choices. And every life that feels stuck, heavy, or directionless was also built by choices. Not always big ones, mostly small ones. Repeated, ignored, justified. You don't wake up one day in a life you don't recognize. You arrive there step by step, a decision to stay silent when you should have spoken, a decision to stay comfortable when you should have grown, a decision to delay instead of act, a decision to react instead of think, a decision to choose what feels good now over what builds strength later. None of these choices feel dangerous in the moment. That's why they work so well against you. People say, "I had no choice," but most of the time what they really mean is, "I didn't like the cost of the better option." Because having a choice doesn't mean every option is easy. It means every option has a price. And life doesn't care which one you choose. It only responds to the direction you keep choosing. This audiobook is not about controlling life. That's an illusion. You can't control what people do. You can't control what happens tomorrow. You can't control every obstacle, delay, or setback. But you can always control the next choice you make, and that's enough to change everything. Right now, your life is a result. Not a mystery, not a coincidence, a result. A result of how you chose to spend your time, how you chose to respond to pressure, how you chose comfort or discipline, how you chose growth or avoidance, how you chose yourself or didn't. That doesn't mean your past defines you. It means your future is still undecided. Because the same mechanism that built your past is still working today. Choice by choice, moment by moment. Most people think change requires motivation. It doesn't. Motivation fades. Feelings change. Energy comes and goes. But choices don't need motivation. They need clarity. When you are clear, you don't negotiate with yourself. You decide. This is where real power lives. Not in control over others, not in perfect circumstances, but in the space between what happens and what you choose to do next. That space is small, sometimes just a few seconds, but inside that space lives responsibility, freedom, and direction. Every time something triggers you, life asks a question. Who are you choosing to be right now? Every time you feel resistance, life asks another. Will you choose comfort or will you choose growth? Every time you want to quit, delay, or distract yourself, life waits quietly for your answer. And whatever you choose, life builds on it. This audiobook is about becoming conscious of that process, about slowing down enough to see where your choices are really coming from, and about learning how to choose with intention instead of impulse. Not once, not when it's convenient, but consistently. You don't need a perfect plan. You don't need a new identity overnight. You don't need to become someone else. You need to start choosing differently. Because one better choice today doesn't change your life. But one better choice repeated does. Over the next chapters, we're going to walk through the most important decision points of everyday life. Not abstract philosophy. Not motivational noise. Real moments. Moments where people lose years without realizing it. Moments where direction is decided quietly. You'll learn why avoiding a choice is still a choice. Why small decisions compound into big outcomes. Why comfort feels safe but costs you more than you think. Why discipline begins before motivation shows up. Why your reactions matter more than your intentions. Why consistency is built in silence, and why choosing yourself daily is one of the hardest and most important skills you'll ever develop. This is not about being perfect. It's about being honest. Honest about what you're choosing, honest about what it's costing you, and honest about what kind of life those choices are building. Your past was built by choices. Your future will be built the same way, and the next one is closer than you think. Pause for a moment, not to overthink, not to judge yourself, just to notice. Because life is all about choices, and right now, you're choosing to listen. Chapter 1. You are always choosing. Every single day, life places you at a crossroads, not a dramatic one, not the kind you remember forever, a quiet one, a moment where nothing seems urgent, nothing seems permanent, nothing feels like it will matter much later. And yet, it does. Because in that moment, whether you realize it or not, you choose. You choose how to respond. You choose what to ignore. You choose what to delay. You choose what to tolerate. Choice is not something you make once in a while. Choice is something you're doing constantly, even when you do nothing. Especially then. There is a comforting lie people tell themselves when life feels heavy. I had no choice. It sounds innocent. It sounds reasonable. It sounds like relief. But it is rarely true. Because not choosing is still a decision. When you stay silent, you decide that silence is acceptable. When you delay, you decide that delay is safer than action. When you avoid, you decide that discomfort is something to run from. When you stay where you are, you decide that this is good enough for now. Life does not pause while you hesitate. It keeps moving in the direction of what you allow. This is where responsibility becomes uncomfortable. Because once you accept that you are always choosing, you can no longer hide behind circumstance. You may not control what happened to you. You may not control where you started. You may not control what others do, but you do control what you choose next. And that choice is shaping you, whether you like it or not. Every meaningful option in life has a cost. Usually not money, usually not time. The real cost is discomfort. The discomfort of telling the truth. The discomfort of changing patterns. The discomfort of being misunderstood. The discomfort of doing something before you feel ready. So instead of saying, I don't know what to do, people often say, I have no choice. What they really mean is, I don't want to pay the price of the better option. Avoidance feels harmless in the moment. It doesn't demand courage. It doesn't challenge identity. It doesn't force growth. But avoidance is not neutral. It chooses for you. A conversation avoided today becomes distance tomorrow. A decision delayed today becomes pressure later. A habit ignored today becomes a weakness you have to fight under stress. Nothing stays small when it is repeated. This is why life feels unfair to many people. Not because they were unlucky, but because they underestimated the power of small decisions. They waited for clarity before acting. They waited for confidence before choosing. They waited for certainty before committing. But clarity does not come before choice. It comes after. You do not see the path clearly and then decide to walk it. You decide to walk, and clarity forms with movement. Life rewards direction, not hesitation. This is why so many lives feel stuck. Not because the person lacks potential, but because they keep choosing the familiar over the necessary. Familiar pain feels safer than unfamiliar growth. Predictable discomfort feels safer than uncertain improvement. So, days fill with distractions, busy routines, endless thinking, and nothing changes. Life is not cruel, it is consistent. If you consistently choose comfort, life gives you fragility. If you consistently choose avoidance, life gives you anxiety. If you consistently choose distraction, life gives you confusion. But if you consistently choose responsibility, life gives you clarity. If you consistently choose discipline, life gives you confidence. If you consistently choose growth, life gives you strength. This is not motivation, it is cause and effect. You do not need to change everything today. You do not need to become someone else overnight. You do not need one perfect decision to fix your future. You need honesty. Honesty about where you are choosing and where you are pretending not to. Right now, there is something you are avoiding. You already know what it is. A conversation, a habit, a boundary, a decision you keep postponing. You do not have to act immediately, but you do have to see it clearly, because the moment you admit, "I'm choosing this," you regain power. Not power over life, power over direction. Being stuck is rarely about lack of options. It is often about loyalty to a choice that no longer serves you. The moment you stop saying, "I had no choice," you stop giving your future away. You do not need certainty to choose. You do not need confidence to choose. You do not need permission to choose. You only need to accept that you are already choosing every day. And once you accept that, you can begin choosing with intention instead of habit. Avoidance feels safe, but it always charges interest. Not choosing feels passive, but it actively shapes your life. And the most dangerous position you can take is believing that your choices don't matter. Because they do. They always have. And they are doing it right now. Chapter 2. Small choices create big lives. Nothing about the beginning feels important. That is why it works. Small choices never announce themselves as turning points. They don't feel heavy. They don't feel dangerous. They feel harmless. One more day of delay. One more excuse. One more time choosing what's easy instead of what's necessary. Individually, none of these moments seem capable of shaping a life. But together, they decide everything. Life does not change in leaps. It changes through accumulation. Every choice you repeat becomes a vote, not for who you wish to be, but for who you are becoming. You don't suddenly wake up disciplined. You build discipline by choosing effort when comfort is available. You don't suddenly become confident. You build confidence by keeping small promises when no one is watching. You don't suddenly lose direction. You lose it by repeatedly choosing distraction over focus. This is how lives quietly separate. Two people can start in the same place, same background, same opportunity, same potential. Years later, their lives look nothing alike, not because one made a single heroic decision, but because one chose slightly better, consistently. 5 minutes of movement instead of scrolling, 10 minutes of reflection instead of noise, one uncomfortable conversation instead of silence, one honest boundary instead of resentment. Small choices don't feel powerful, but they are persistent, and persistence always wins. The mind resists this truth because it wants change without patience. It wants results without repetition. It wants growth without discomfort. So it waits for a moment that feels big enough to matter. That moment rarely comes. Life doesn't reward intensity, it rewards direction. Direction is set by what you choose on ordinary days. The day you don't feel motivated, the day nothing exciting is happening, the day no one is watching or applauding. Those days build your future. This is why habits matter more than goals. Goals are ideas. Habits are decisions repeated. A goal without aligned daily choices is just imagination. You don't rise to the level of your hopes. You fall to the level of your habits. Every habit you keep is a quiet agreement with your future. It says, "This is the kind of life I'm building." And every habit you tolerate is doing the same. People underestimate how quickly small choices compound. They think tomorrow will be different without today being different, but tomorrow is built from today's decisions. A small choice made once does very little. The same choice made daily becomes identity. This is where responsibility becomes empowering. Because if your life is the result of accumulation, then changing direction doesn't require dramatic effort. It requires consistency. You don't need to do more, you need to do less, better. One decision repeated is more powerful than 10 decisions abandoned. This is also why regret is rarely about one moment. It's about patterns. People don't regret missing one workout. They regret years of choosing comfort over health. They don't regret one avoided conversation. They regret relationships eroded by silence. They don't regret one distracted day. They regret a life lived without focus. The pain arrives late, but the cause was early. Life compounds quietly. What you choose to read compounds. What you choose to watch compounds. What you choose to eat compounds. What you choose to think about compounds. What you choose to ignore compounds. Nothing is neutral when repeated. This is why awareness matters more than intensity. You don't need to overhaul your life. You need to notice what you are reinforcing. Right now, your daily choices are training you to become stronger or weaker, more focused or more scattered, more disciplined or more reactive. No single day defines you, but patterns do. So instead of asking, "What big change do I need?" ask a better question. What am I choosing every day that is shaping my direction? Look at a normal day. Not a perfect one, not a terrible one, a normal day. How you start it, how you handle resistance, how you respond to boredom, how you end it. That day is not random, it is a blueprint. And if you don't like where that blueprint leads, you don't need a miracle. You need a small adjustment, repeated. Life does not reward those who try hardest once. It rewards those who choose better consistently. Big lives are not built by dramatic moments. They are built by quiet decisions made daily. And the most powerful thing you can do right now is stop waiting for a moment that feels important. Because the moment you are in is already shaping you. Chapter 3. Comfort is a daily decision. Comfort rarely feels like a problem. It feels like relief. It feels like choosing rest instead of effort, silence instead of conflict, ease instead of resistance, and that is why comfort is dangerous. Comfort does not arrive as an enemy. It arrives as a reasonable option. Just today, just this once, just until things feel better. But comfort is not chosen once. It is chosen daily. Every time you take the easier path when a harder one would build you, you are not just resting, you are training yourself to avoid resistance. Life does not remove challenges when you choose comfort. It removes your capacity to face them. This is how people slowly lose strength without realizing it. They don't become weak overnight. They become comfortable. Comfort teaches the nervous system that discomfort is a threat. So the moment effort is required, the mind searches for escape, distraction, rationalization, delay. None of these feel harmful in the moment, but they create a pattern where growth feels overwhelming and ease feels necessary. The truth is uncomfortable but simple. Growth requires resistance, and resistance never feels comfortable. Every time you grow, something inside you resists. Your body resists effort. Your mind resists uncertainty. Your ego resists being challenged. So comfort feels like safety, but safety is not the same as progress. Comfort does not ask you to expand. It asks you to stay the same, and staying the same in a changing world is another form of decline. This is why people often say they feel stuck, not because they lack options, but because they have trained themselves to avoid discomfort. They understand what needs to be done. They just don't like how it feels. So they wait. They wait to feel ready. They wait to feel confident. They wait to feel motivated. But comfort feeds on waiting. The longer you wait, the more uncomfortable the action feels. The more comfortable avoidance becomes. This creates a quiet trap. You start believing that comfort is necessary for well-being, that pushing yourself is unhealthy, that challenge is something to avoid. But the body and mind were not designed for constant ease. They were designed for adaptation. Without resistance, muscles weaken. Without challenge, focus decays. Without effort, confidence erodes. Comfort feels good now, but it steals strength from later. This is why discipline feels harsh to the undisciplined and freeing to the disciplined. The disciplined person has learned that discomfort is temporary, that effort creates relief later. Doing the hard thing early makes life easier afterward. The undisciplined person experiences the opposite. They choose ease early and pay for it with stress, regret, and anxiety later. Comfort always charges interest. You may not notice it immediately, but the bill always arrives. Health declines quietly. Relationships weaken subtly. Opportunities disappear slowly, not because of one bad choice, but because of many comfortable ones. This chapter is not asking you to eliminate comfort. Rest matters. Recovery matters. But there is a difference between rest and escape. Rest prepares you to return to effort. Escape teaches you to avoid it. The question is not whether you feel discomfort. The question is whether you are willing to choose it intentionally. Every day presents at least one moment where you must decide, do I choose ease, or do I choose what builds me? That moment is usually small. Getting up when it would be easier to stay down. Starting when it would be easier to delay. Speaking when it would be easier to stay silent. Stopping when it would be easier to indulge. None of these moments feel heroic, but they shape your tolerance for effort. Your tolerance for effort determines the size of the life you can build. People with large lives are not more comfortable. They are more capable. They have trained themselves to sit inside discomfort without needing to escape it. They have learned that the feeling of resistance is not a signal to stop. It is a signal that growth is possible. Comfort asks one question: how can I feel better right now? Growth asks a different one: what choice strengthens me long term? You cannot answer both at the same time. Each day, you choose which question you will respond to. This is not about punishment, it is about alignment. Choosing discomfort is choosing your future. Choosing comfort is choosing the present. Neither is evil, but they lead to very different lives. And the life you experience 5 years from now will not be the result of one bold moment. It will be the result of thousands of small decisions where you either leaned into resistance or stepped back into ease. Comfort feels kind in the moment, but it is indifferent to who you become. Growth feels demanding, but it respects your potential. And every day, quietly, without drama, you decide which one you are listening to. Chapter 4. Discipline is chosen before it's felt. Discipline is often misunderstood. It is imagined as something emotional, a surge of motivation, a sudden wave of determination. That image is comforting, because it suggests you only need to feel different in order to act differently. But discipline does not begin with feeling ready. It begins with deciding before you feel anything at all. Waiting for motivation is a strategy that rarely works. Motivation is unstable. It appears when conditions are easy and disappears the moment resistance shows up. If your actions depend on how you feel, your results will always be inconsistent. Discipline exists precisely for the moments when feelings are unreliable. It is the choice to act even when the body resists, even when the mind complains, even when there is no emotional reward in sight. This is why discipline feels heavy at first. You're acting without internal agreement. Your feelings have not caught up yet. But feelings are not leaders, they are followers. They follow behavior. Confidence follows action. Clarity follows commitment. Energy follows movement. You do not wait to feel disciplined. You act disciplined and the feeling comes later. Most people reverse this order. They wait to feel inspired. They wait to feel certain. They wait to feel capable. And while they wait, nothing changes. Discipline is not about forcing yourself endlessly. It is about removing negotiation. Every time you debate with yourself, you drain energy. Should I start now or later? Should I skip today or not? Should I rest or push? The disciplined person decides once and executes many times. They remove the daily argument. This is why discipline creates freedom. not restriction. When a decision is already made, your mind relaxes. There is no internal conflict, no wasted energy, just action. Undisciplined lives feel chaotic because everything is negotiated daily. Nothing is stable. Nothing is automatic. Everything depends on mood. Mood is a terrible leader. Feelings are shaped by sleep, nutrition, stress, and environment. They are volatile by nature. Discipline creates a structure that does not depend on emotional stability. This is why disciplined people appear calm under pressure. They are not waiting to feel better. They already know what they will do. Discipline is not intensity. It is reliability. It is showing up when it is boring. It is continuing when no progress is visible. It is choosing effort without applause. This kind of consistency changes identity. Each disciplined action sends a signal. I do what I said I would do. That signal builds trust with yourself. And self-trust is a powerful thing. Without it, confidence collapses. With it, fear loses influence. Most people struggle not because they lack willpower, but because they keep reopening decisions. Every reopened decision is a chance to quit. Should I keep going? Should I stop? Should I change direction? Discipline closes the door. It says, "This is what I do," no discussion. That does not mean rigidity. It means commitment. You can adjust direction deliberately, but you do not adjust based on discomfort. Discomfort is expected. If discipline felt good immediately, everyone would have it. The reason discipline separates people is because it asks you to act without emotional confirmation. And over time, something interesting happens. What once felt heavy begins to feel normal. What once felt difficult begins to feel manageable. What once required effort begins to feel natural. This is not because the task changed, it is because you changed. Discipline trains your nervous system to tolerate effort. Tolerance creates capacity. Capacity creates options. Suddenly, things that once felt overwhelming become part of your baseline. This is why disciplined people can do more without feeling constantly exhausted. They are not fighting themselves. They decided early. This chapter is not asking you to become extreme. It is asking you to become decisive. Choose a few things that matter. Decide how they are done. Stop renegotiating. Do not ask yourself how you feel about it today. Ask whether it aligns with the life you are building. Discipline does not care about your mood. It cares about direction, and direction, sustained long enough, creates a life that feels stable, capable, and calm. Not because it is easy, but because it is intentional. Discipline is not something you wait for. It is something you choose before it is comfortable, before it is rewarding, before it feels natural, and once chosen, it begins to choose you back. Chapter 5. Your reaction is your responsibility. Life is not calm by default. It applies pressure, unexpected words, unfair situations, delays, disrespect, loss. None of these ask for permission. They arrive when they arrive. What determines the quality of your life is not the absence of these moments, but how you respond when they appear. Between what happens and what you do next, there is a space. That space is small, sometimes only a breath. But inside that space lives choice. Most suffering is not caused by events. It is caused by reactions, the raised voice that turns into an argument, the comment that becomes resentment, the delay that becomes anger, the mistake that becomes self-hatred. Events trigger emotions. That is natural. But emotions do not need to control behavior. This is the core of emotional discipline. You are not responsible for what happens. You are responsible for how you respond. This is where many people lose power. They give it away without realizing it. They say, "You made me angry. You ruined my day. They triggered me." What those statements really mean is, I handed control to something external. Once you do that, You're no longer steering your life. You are reacting to it. Reaction is fast, automatic, unexamined. Response is slow, intentional, chosen. The difference between the two decides the difference between chaos and clarity. The mind often justifies reactions by calling them honesty, or authenticity, or being real. But uncontrolled reactions are not honesty. They are habits. Habits formed under pressure and repeated without awareness. Every time you react impulsively, you reinforce that pathway. Your nervous system learns. This is how we deal with stress. Over time, reactions become quicker, stronger, and harder to interrupt. This is how people lose emotional control without ever deciding to. Responsibility feels heavy here because it removes excuses. If your reaction is your responsibility, you can no longer blame circumstances for your state. But that same responsibility is what gives you freedom. Because if your reaction is chosen, it can be changed. The pause is everything, not a long pause, not a dramatic one, just enough space to remember who is in control. 3 seconds is often enough. A breath before speaking, a moment before responding, a brief delay before acting. That pause interrupts the automatic loop. It allows reason to enter, and reason does not eliminate emotion. It places it in context. You can feel anger without becoming aggressive. You can feel disappointment without becoming bitter. You can feel fear without becoming frozen. Stoic discipline is not emotional suppression. It is emotional command. It is the ability to feel fully without being ruled. This skill compounds. Each time you choose response over reaction, you strengthen that capacity. You begin to notice triggers earlier. You regain composure faster. You waste less energy on regret. People often believe that reacting strongly shows strength. It does not. Strength is restraint. Anyone can react. Very few can pause, and those who can pause can choose. This is why calm people feel powerful. They are not calm because life is easy. They are calm because they are not surrendering control. Every reaction has a cost. An argument costs peace. An outburst costs trust. A defensive response costs learning. A bitter reaction costs clarity. Those costs accumulate, but so do disciplined responses. A calm reply preserves dignity. A measured answer preserves relationships. A thoughtful response preserves direction. This chapter is not asking you to become passive. It is asking you to become precise. There are moments when firmness is required. Boundaries matter. Truth matters. But firmness chosen deliberately is very different from anger expressed impulsively. One builds respect. The other creates damage. You do not need to win every moment. You need to remain in control of yourself. Because when you lose control of your reaction, you lose the ability to choose your direction. Life will continue to apply pressure. That will not change. But pressure does not define you. Your response does. Every time something challenges you, life asks a quiet question. Will you react or will you respond? That answer shapes your character, and character shapes your life. Responsibility is not a burden here. It is a lever. Chapter 6. Who you listen to is a choice. Your life is shaped by voices, not just the loud ones, the repeated ones. Every day, ideas pass through your mind, opinions, judgments, expectations, fears that did not originate from you. Very few of them arrive by accident. Attention is not neutral. What you allow into it leaves a mark. The mind absorbs what it is exposed to most often. Not what is true, not what is best, what is frequent. This is why environment matters more than intention. You may intend to think clearly, but if your mental environment is noisy, clarity becomes rare. You may intend to stay focused, but if your attention is constantly interrupted, focus never forms. This is not weakness. It is conditioning. Every voice you listen to is training you. Some voices train you toward courage. Others train you toward fear. Some strengthen discipline, others justify comfort. Some sharpen perspective, others distort it. None of them are harmless when repeated. Many people underestimate how influenced they are because influence rarely feels like control. It feels like common sense, like just the way things are, like your own thoughts. But most beliefs are borrowed. Borrowed from media, borrowed from peers, borrowed from people who speak often, not necessarily people who live well. If you are not deliberate about who you listen to, you will be shaped by whoever is loudest. This is how direction is lost quietly. You begin to normalize distraction, you begin to normalize anxiety, you begin to normalize constant comparison. And over time, your inner dialogue changes. It becomes impatient, reactive, doubtful. Not because you are broken, but because you have been trained that way. Your attention is life energy. Where it goes, your thoughts follow. Where your thoughts go, your emotions follow. Where your emotions go, your actions follow. So when attention is scattered, life feels scattered. This is why people feel mentally exhausted without doing anything physically demanding. Their attention is constantly pulled, fragmented, never allowed to settle. A mind that never settles cannot think deeply. And without deep thinking, choices become shallow. You begin reacting to trends instead of values, to noise instead of meaning, to urgency instead of importance. This is not accidental. Entire systems are designed to compete for your attention. They do not care about your clarity. They care about engagement, and engagement is often driven by fear, outrage, and comparison. If you consume that environment daily, it becomes your mental climate. You cannot expect calm in a storm you willingly step into. This chapter is not about isolation. It is about selection. You do not need to silence the world. You need to choose which voices earn access. Every voice has a tone, and tone shapes perception. Voices that complain train helplessness. Voices that blame train victimhood. Voices that mock effort train cynicism. Over time, those tones become your own. But the opposite is also true. Voices that value responsibility train strength. Voices that emphasize clarity train discipline. Voices that speak calmly under pressure train composure. The mind learns by imitation. This is why mentorship matters, even indirect mentorship. What you read, what you listen to, what you repeatedly expose yourself to, these are choices, and they are shaping your standards. If you listen to people who excuse weakness, you will excuse your own. If you listen to people who respect effort, you will begin to respect your own discipline. Your inner voice is not something you are born with. It is something you build, and it is built from external voices absorbed over time. This is why boundaries are necessary, not just physical boundaries, but cognitive ones. You do not owe your attention to everything. You do not owe your emotional energy to everyone. Choosing silence is sometimes the strongest choice you can make. Silence allows the mind to reset, to hear itself again, to distinguish what matters from what is merely loud. Without silence, everything feels urgent. With silence, perspective returns. This chapter invites you to audit your mental environment. Not dramatically, honestly. What voices dominate your day? What tone do they carry? Do they leave you clearer or more agitated? More focused or more distracted? You already know the answer. And knowing is enough to begin. You do not need to eliminate everything at once. You need to reduce what weakens you and increase what strengthens you. Over time, this shifts your internal dialogue. You begin thinking more deliberately, responding more calmly, choosing more intentionally. Not because life became easier, but because your mental environment became cleaner. Clarity is fragile. It must be protected. Chapter 7. Consistency is chosen in silence. Consistency is quiet. It does not announce itself. It does not seek recognition. It happens when no one is watching, when there is no reward, when there is no pressure to perform. This is why it is rare. Most effort in the world is public. People push when they are seen. They improve when they are evaluated. They try harder when results are immediate. But life is not built on public moments. It is built on private ones. What you do when no one notices reveals who you are becoming. Consistency is not about intensity. It is about identity. Anyone can try hard once. Anyone can show up when motivation is high. Anyone can perform when the spotlight is on. But repeating the same behavior in silence requires alignment. Alignment between what you say matters and what you actually do. This is where most people drift. They want results without routine. They want change without repetition. They want progress without patience. So they rely on mood. Mood feels real. Mood feels honest. But mood is unstable. If your actions depend on how you feel, your direction will change daily. Consistency removes that volatility. It creates a steady signal to the nervous system. This is who we are, and the nervous system responds by adapting. At first, consistency feels heavy. There is no feedback, no validation, no visible progress. Just repetition. This is where people quit. Not because the effort is too hard, but because the reward is too delayed. Silence is uncomfortable for the ego. There is nothing to show, nothing to prove, only commitment. But silence is where identity forms. Every time you repeat a behavior without being seen, you strengthen the belief, I do what I said I would do. That belief compounds. Self-trust grows quietly. Confidence stabilizes. Doubt loses leverage. This is how disciplined people feel calm. Not because life is easy, but because they trust themselves. They do not rely on motivation. They rely on patterns. Patterns reduce decision fatigue. They remove negotiation. There is no question of whether to act. The answer is already built in. This frees mental energy. Undisciplined lives feel exhausting because every day requires convincing yourself again. Consistency is efficient. It conserves willpower by making behavior automatic. This is why small, repeatable actions are more powerful than ambitious plans. Plans excite the mind. Repetition changes the body. Identity is not shaped by what you think you are. It is shaped by what you repeatedly do. You cannot lie to repetition. Over time, behavior becomes belief. I am someone who shows up. I am someone who finishes. I am someone who follows through. These beliefs are not affirmations. They are earned. Silence is also where discipline is tested. Without external pressure, excuses feel reasonable. No one will know if you skip today. No one will care if you delay. No one will hold you accountable, except one person, you. And that is enough, because you are the one who lives with the consequences. Consistency in silence creates a strange confidence. Not loud, not performative, stable. You know what you can rely on, and that steadiness becomes strength. This is why consistency compounds faster than talent. Talent without consistency creates potential. Consistency without talent creates results. Over time, consistent effort builds skill. Skill builds confidence. Confidence expands opportunity. This chain begins in silence. This chapter is not asking you to do more. It is asking you to do less, but repeatedly. Choose a small behavior that aligns with the life you want. Make it simple. Make it repeatable. Then protect it from interruption. Not aggressively, calmly. Treat it as non-negotiable. Not because it is impressive, but because it is necessary. You do not need perfect execution. You need continuity. Miss a day, return the next. No drama, no self-judgment. Consistency is not perfection. It is resilience, the ability to return without losing direction. This is how long-term results are built. Not through pressure, not through intensity. Chapter 8. Choosing yourself changes everything. Choosing yourself is often misunderstood. It is confused with selfishness, with arrogance, with indifference toward others. But choosing yourself is none of those things. Choosing yourself is responsibility. It is the decision to stop abandoning your own standards, to stop betraying your values for comfort or approval, to stop living according to expectations that were never yours to carry. Many people avoid choosing themselves because it feels dangerous. They fear being judged. They fear disappointing others. They fear losing connection. So they compromise. A little at first, then a little more. Until compromise becomes a way of life. They say yes when they mean no. They stay silent when something feels wrong. They give time, energy, and attention they cannot afford. Over time, something erodes. Self-respect, not all at once, quietly. And when self-respect weakens, everything else becomes harder. Boundaries blur, resentment builds, confidence fades. Life begins to feel heavy, not because of effort, but because of misalignment. Choosing yourself is the act of correcting that alignment. It is deciding that your time matters, that your energy is finite, that your attention is valuable, and that how you use these things determines the quality of your life. Self-respect is not something you demand from others. It is something you demonstrate through choices. Every time you keep a promise to yourself, you strengthen it. Every time you ignore your own needs, you weaken it. People often wait for confidence before choosing themselves. But confidence does not come first. Self-respect comes first. Confidence follows. You do not feel worthy and then act accordingly. You act with self-respect, and worth becomes evident. This is why small decisions matter so much here. Getting enough rest, ending conversations that drain you, doing the work you said you would do, saying no without explanation. These are not dramatic acts. They are quiet votes. Votes for the kind of life you are willing to live. Choosing yourself also means accepting solitude at times. Not loneliness, solitude. The space created when you stop performing for approval. That space can feel uncomfortable at first. Without constant feedback, the mind grows restless. But within that space, clarity forms. You begin to hear your own thoughts again, to recognize your own standards, to understand what you actually want, not what you are told to want. Many people never experience this because they are always reacting to others. Others' opinions, others' needs, others' expectations. They live externally. Choosing yourself is the shift inward. It is deciding that your internal compass matters more than external noise. This does not mean ignoring others. It means no longer abandoning yourself. You can be kind without being compliant. You can be generous without being depleted. You can be present without being available to everything. Boundaries are not walls. They are filters. They allow what aligns to pass and stop what weakens you. People who respect themselves are often misunderstood at first, not because they are wrong, but because they change the dynamic. When you stop over-explaining, some feel uncomfortable. When you stop rescuing, some feel abandoned. When you stop tolerating disrespect, some feel exposed. This is not your problem to solve. Choosing yourself will reveal who benefits from you not doing so. And that clarity, though uncomfortable, is freeing. It allows you to invest energy where it is returned, not drained. Choosing yourself also requires honesty. Honesty about what you can handle, what you want to build, what you are willing to sacrifice, and what you are not. You cannot choose everything. Every yes costs something else. So choosing yourself means choosing priorities. It means accepting trade-offs consciously instead of living with regret unconsciously. A life without boundaries is a life run by urgency. Everything feels important. Everything feels demanding, and nothing feels meaningful. Choosing yourself introduces hierarchy. This matters. That can wait. This deserves my energy. That does not. clarity replaces chaos. And with clarity comes calm. Not because life becomes easier, but because your direction becomes stable. You stop chasing validation and start building alignment. Alignment between values and actions, between goals and habits, between who you are and how you live. This alignment is rare, and it is powerful. It creates a quiet confidence that does not need to announce itself. You no longer need to prove your worth. You demonstrate it through consistency. This chapter is not encouraging isolation, it is encouraging integrity. Integrity is wholeness. It is living as one person, not one version for others and another for yourself. Choosing yourself brings these versions together. It reduces internal conflict, and internal conflict is exhausting. When your actions match your values, energy returns, focus sharpens, decisions simplify. Life feels less dramatic because you're no longer negotiating with yourself constantly. You already know where you stand. This is what people sense when they say someone has presence. Presence is not charisma, it is coherence. The feeling that a person is aligned within themselves. That alignment begins with choosing yourself daily. Not once, not when it is convenient. Daily, in small ways, in quiet moments. Choosing rest when you need it. Choosing effort when it matters. Choosing truth when silence would be easier. Choosing boundaries when compliance would be praised. Each choice reinforces the next. Over time, choosing yourself stops feeling selfish and starts feeling necessary. Because you realize something important. No one else can do it for you. No one else can live according to your values. No one else can protect your time. No one else can decide what kind of life you are building. That responsibility is yours, and accepting it is not a burden. It is relief. Relief from pretending, relief from resentment, relief from drifting. Choosing yourself does not make life perfect. It makes it honest, and honesty is sustainable. The world will continue to make demands. People will continue to have opinions. Circumstances will continue to change. But when you choose yourself, you remain grounded. You know what matters. You know what you stand for. You know what you are building. And that knowledge steadies you. This is how everything changes. Chapter 9. You become what you repeat. Identity is not something you declare. It is something you demonstrate. You can say who you want to be. You can imagine a better version of yourself. You can even believe in it deeply. But the mind does not become what it believes. It becomes what it repeats. Every repeated action is a lesson. Not spoken, practiced. And practice always wins. The brain is not persuaded by intention. It is persuaded by evidence. What you do once means very little. What you do again and again becomes proof. This is why change feels difficult for many people. They try to think their way into a new identity without behaving their way into it. They wait to feel like a disciplined person before acting disciplined. They wait to feel confident before acting with confidence. But identity does not work that way. Action comes first. Identity follows. Every time you repeat a behavior, you are casting a vote for the kind of person you are becoming. Missed once, the vote is weak. Repeated daily, the vote becomes decisive. This is how habits stop feeling like habits and start feeling like a personality. You don't wake up one day and decide who you are. You wake up one day and realize who you have been practicing. This applies to everything. If you repeatedly avoid discomfort, you practice avoidance. If you repeatedly quit when things get hard, you practice quitting. If you repeatedly distract yourself from tension, you practice escape. And the brain adapts. It becomes efficient at what you repeat. The opposite is also true. If you repeatedly show up, you practice reliability. If you repeatedly act despite resistance, you practice courage. If you repeatedly keep small promises, you practice integrity. These practices shape identity. Identity then shapes expectation. you begin to expect yourself to follow through. You begin to expect yourself to act calmly. You begin to expect yourself to handle pressure. Expectation changes behavior automatically. This is why disciplined people appear effortless. They are not exerting constant willpower. They are acting in alignment with who they believe they are. And that belief was built through repetition. The danger is that repetition works in all directions. You become what you repeat, whether you choose it consciously or not. Repeated procrastination becomes self-doubt. Indulgence repeated becomes dependency. Repeated excuses become a limitation. None of these starts loud. They start small, and they grow through consistency. This is why identity-based change lasts and outcome-based change fades. If you chase results without changing behavior, the results feel temporary. If you change behavior long enough, results become inevitable. The mind is always asking a quiet question: what kind of person does this? When your actions answer that question consistently, identity forms. This is also why guilt is ineffective long-term. Guilt focuses on what you failed to do. Repetition focuses on what you practice next. Identity is not built by self-criticism. It is built by self-evidence. One honest repetition is worth more than 1,000 motivational thoughts. This chapter invites you to stop asking, "Who do I want to be?" and start asking something more precise. What am I practicing? Look at your days. Not the exceptional ones, the ordinary ones. What do you repeat when you are tired? What do you repeat when you are bored? What do you repeat when no one is watching? Those moments are shaping you faster than moments of inspiration ever could. You do not need to repeat everything perfectly. You need to repeat what matters consistently. This is where simplicity becomes powerful. Choose a few behaviors that reflect the person you want to become. Make them small enough to repeat, clear enough to execute, specific enough to measure. Then repeat them, not until you feel different, until you become different. Repetition removes the drama from change. There is no need for emotional intensity, no need for constant reflection, no need for motivation. Just practice. Practice showing up. Practice finishing. Practice restraint. Practice honesty. Over time, the mind stops arguing. It accepts the evidence. This is who we are. That acceptance brings stability. You no longer wonder if you can handle something. You know how you respond to pressure. You have seen yourself do it. This is confidence grounded in experience, not belief. The most important repetition of all is how you treat your own standards. Do you keep them when it is inconvenient? Do you abandon them when no one notices? Do you negotiate with them under pressure? Standards repeated become character, and character decides outcomes long before circumstances do. You do not need to transform your life all at once. You need to repeat the right things long enough. Life bends toward consistency, not quickly, not dramatically, but reliably. You do not rise to the person you imagine. You rise or fall to the person you practice. And every day, quietly, you are practicing something. Chapter 10. The life you avoid is the life you're choosing. Avoidance rarely feels like a decision. It feels like delay, like caution, like waiting for a better time. But avoidance is one of the most powerful choices you make, because what you avoid does not disappear. It waits, and while it waits, it shapes the direction of your life. The life you avoid today is quietly becoming the life you live tomorrow. Not because you wanted it, but because you chose not to face it. Most people imagine that danger comes from action, from taking risks, from making bold moves. But for most lives, danger comes from avoidance. Avoiding discomfort, avoiding responsibility, avoiding truth, avoiding the work required to become who you know you could be. Avoidance feels safe in the short term. It protects you from anxiety, from conflict, from failure. but it extracts a price over time. That price is direction. Every avoided action narrows the range of futures available to you. Not dramatically, incrementally. And because the change is slow, it feels invisible. Until one day, you look up and realize the path has closed behind you. People rarely regret the risks they took and failed. They regret the risks they never took at all. Not because the outcome would have been perfect, but because avoidance made the decision permanent. There is a particular pain that comes from this realization, a quiet pain, one without drama, the pain of knowing you did not lose because you tried and failed, but because you never fully chose. Avoidance trains the nervous system to retreat. Each time you step back from discomfort, the mind learns. This is how we survive. And survival becomes the standard. Growth is no longer the goal. Safety is. But safety, pursued long enough, becomes confinement. You begin to organize your life around what you can tolerate, not what you're capable of. You choose work that feels secure instead of work that feels meaningful. You choose relationships that feel familiar instead of relationships that demand honesty. You choose routines that feel manageable instead of routines that would challenge you. None of these choices feel wrong in isolation. That is why they work. Avoidance rarely looks like self-sabotage. It looks like reason. I'll do it later. Now isn't the right time. I need to be more prepared. I don't want to rush. Sometimes these statements are true. Often they are disguises. Disguises for fear. Fear of failure, fear of rejection, fear of exposure, fear of discovering that you are capable of more than you are currently willing to give. Fear does not always scream, it whispers. And when fear whispers, avoidance listens. The tragedy is not that fear exists. Fear is natural. The tragedy is building a life that revolves around avoiding it. When fear dictates choices, potential shrinks. You stop asking, what could I build? And start asking, what can I avoid losing? That shift changes everything. You become defensive instead of creative, reactive instead of intentional, cautious instead of decisive. Life becomes something to manage, not something to shape. Avoidance also distorts time. The future feels distant, abstract, unreal, so you trade it for immediate relief. But the future always arrives, and it arrives carrying the weight of what you chose not to do. The conversation you avoided becomes distant. The boundary you avoided becomes resentment. The effort you avoided becomes a limitation. The discipline you avoided becomes regret. Regret is not sudden. It accumulates. It is the echo of avoided moments. People often think regret comes from mistakes. More often, it comes from hesitation, from standing at the edge of a decision and stepping back again and again until the opportunity quietly expires. This chapter is not asking you to eliminate fear. That is unrealistic. It is asking you to stop letting fear decide. Fear will always offer a reason to wait, to delay, to choose comfort over growth. But fear has no interest in your future, only in immediate relief. If you let fear vote daily, it will win every election. Avoidance also erodes self-trust. Each time you know what needs to be done and choose not to do it, something weakens inside you. Not confidence, credibility. You stop believing your own intentions. You tell yourself you will act later, but you know the pattern. Later becomes never. This internal fracture is subtle but destructive. Because once you no longer trust yourself, everything feels harder. Decision-making becomes exhausting. Motivation becomes unreliable. Hope feels hollow. Choosing avoidance does not protect you from pain. It postpones it and multiplies it. The discomfort you avoid today returns later with interest. And unlike the original discomfort, which could have strengthened you, this one only drains. Facing what you avoid does not guarantee success, but avoiding it guarantees stagnation. Action creates information. Avoidance creates an illusion. When you act, you learn. When you avoid, you imagine. And imagination is often harsher than reality. Most of the things people fear, they are less damaging than the life built around avoiding them. This is why courage is misunderstood. Courage is not confidence. It is movement despite uncertainty. It is choosing a direction without assurance. Courage does not wait for fear to disappear. It moves while fear is present. And each time you move, fear loses authority. The first step is rarely clean, rarely graceful, rarely impressive. But it breaks the pattern. It tells the nervous system, we move forward, even when it is uncomfortable. That message changes identity. Avoidance shrinks identity. Action expands it. This is not about reckless decisions. It is about honest ones. What are you avoiding because it threatens your comfort, but not your integrity? What decision keeps returning because it matters? What conversation keeps resurfacing because silence is no longer neutral? These questions are not accusations. They are invitations. Invitations to reclaim authorship. You're not powerless in your life. You are deciding it daily, through action or avoidance. The life you are living now is not random. It is aligned with what you have been willing to face. If that realization feels heavy, that is understandable. Responsibility always feels heavier than excuses. But responsibility also gives you leverage, because the same mechanism that allowed avoidance to shape your life allows courage to reshape it. You do not need to face everything at once. You need to face one thing honestly. One decision, one action, one conversation. Not because it guarantees success, but it restores momentum. Momentum changes perception. What once felt impossible begins to feel manageable. What once felt overwhelming begins to feel clear. Avoidance collapses under movement. The life you avoid today is not punishing you. It is waiting for your choice. And that choice does not need to be loud. It needs to be real. This chapter is not about pressure. It is about truth. The truth is that avoidance is a choice. The truth is that choice shapes life. The truth is that direction can still change. The future is not asking you to be fearless. It is asking you to stop running, because the life you avoid does not vanish. It becomes the life you wake up in. And the moment you face it, even imperfectly, you begin choosing something else. By now, nothing here should feel surprising. Uncomfortable maybe, but not new, because deep down, you already knew most of this. You knew that your life is shaped by choices. You knew that discipline is not about feeling ready. You knew that comfort delays growth. You knew that avoidance has a cost. You knew that repetition builds identity. You knew that not choosing is still a choice. The purpose of this audiobook was never to inform you. It was to confront you. Not aggressively, not emotionally, but honestly. Because information changes nothing on its own. Awareness does. And awareness without action is just another form of delay. At this point, there are only two ways this audiobook can end. One is comfortable. You close it. You nod quietly. You tell yourself it made sense. You feel a brief sense of clarity. And then life continues exactly as it was. The same habits, the same excuses, the same patterns. That ending requires no courage. It requires nothing at all. The other ending is harder. It asks you to pause, not dramatically, not emotionally, but deliberately, to recognize that listening was already a choice, and that's what you do next is another one. Life does not change because you understand something. It changes when understanding alters behavior. This is where most people stop. Not because they disagree, but because the agreement feels enough. It isn't. Clarity without movement becomes another excuse to wait. The truth is simple. Your life right now is aligned with the choices you have been willing to make, not the ones you admired, not the ones you imagined, the ones you repeated. And if that feels confronting, it should. Because it also means something important. It means your life is not fixed, it is not cursed, it is not locked, it is responsive. Responsive to what you choose next. You don't need to rewrite your entire life. You don't need a new identity overnight. You don't need a perfect plan. You need one honest decision that interrupts an old pattern. That is how momentum begins. Most people wait for motivation, but motivation does not come first. Action does. Action creates evidence. Evidence creates belief. Belief stabilizes identity. This is the order, and the order matters. You already know where your life feels misaligned. You don't need to search for it. There is something you keep postponing, something you keep justifying, something you keep telling yourself you will face later. Later is not a place. It is a story, and stories do not build lives. Choices do. The uncomfortable truth is that the hardest part of change. It is not an effort, it is honesty. Honesty about what you tolerate, honesty about what you avoid, honesty about the cost of staying the same. Staying the same has a cost. It just feels familiar. Growth has a cost too. It just feels intentional. You pay either way. Life does not negotiate with potential. It responds to action. This audiobook does not ask you to be extreme. It asks you to be precise, to choose one area where avoidance has become a habit. One, not 10, not everything. One decision you already know matters, and to face it. Not perfectly, not heroically, but deliberately. That single choice will not fix your life, but it will restore something more important. Direction. Direction changes everything. When you have direction, effort makes sense. Discomfort becomes meaningful. Sacrifice feels chosen, not forced. Without direction, even easy things feel heavy. This is why so many people feel exhausted without doing anything difficult. They are carrying indecision. Indecision drains more energy than action ever will. Choosing ends that drain. Even when the choice is hard, especially then.